The digital nomad lifestyle is perfect. At least that's what I thought before I started traveling. And while I do love it, there are some drawbacks. I've been working remotely for almost a year now and traveling about 8 of those months. And I just got back from a 5-month-long trip to Colombia and Brazil. So I've been reflecting on my experiences of travel the last few months, and I've come up with a list of the top 20 pros and cons that I've experienced as a single guy in his 20s traveling Latin America as a digital nomad. All right, we're gonna start with the cons, and there are 8 of them. So number 1, I have to fit my life into a backpack and a duffel bag. And while they're pretty big and I can fit a decent amount of stuff into them, I have to be able to sustain myself for months with just 2 bags, which gets kind of annoying, get kind of tired of the same clothes, and wish I had some more supplies and conveniences that I have at my house. But you just got to deal with it because that's the reality of travel. And it's not the end of the world, you get used to it, but sometimes it is annoying, like I said, like, I wish I had this item that I have back at my house, or I wish I could bring more stuff with me, I wish I had more shoes, but is what it is. All right, number 2, sometimes you feel a bit unstable, not sure where your next Airbnb is gonna be at, if you're not really vibing with the place. That's a scary thought when you book an Airbnb for a month in a foreign country, but it's just a gamble you gotta take sometimes. You can start with just a week and then do a month after once you know you like the place, but sometimes I took a risk and went right in with a month, and it's paid off so far, but like sometimes there's still that uncertainty. Number 3, it can get lonely at times, especially if you're in a non-English speaking country and you don't have too many other digital nomads around you. That's what I experienced my last few weeks in Brazil. Luckily, I had one dude who spoke English, we were boys, we got along, but other than that, did not really know anyone who spoke English. There's one girl I met who spoke English, luckily, but besides that, I was basically to myself because I didn't speak much Portuguese, and that gets a bit rough at times, but it also can be good for when you want to focus. I was dialed in Brazil, like I couldn't talk to many people, so I had no choice but to work, get shit done, so that can be a pro too. But you do want the human connection after a while, so it's not good to not be able to talk to anyone for too long. Which leads me into number 4, which is the language barrier. Again, if you don't speak the language, makes it tough. In Mexico and Colombia, I was learning Spanish, so it was much easier. I enjoyed learning the new language. But in Brazil, it was Portuguese, and I really wanted to keep learning Spanish, so that kind of made it tough. Like I said, there was the language barrier, couldn't communicate with too many people, and at the end of the day, it wasn't too big of a deal because there were some people who spoke English or Spanish, but as a whole, not speaking the local language, you kind of have to do it if you really want like a good, genuine experience wherever you're at. Number 5, your routine can suffer if you are bouncing around too much. So when I was in Mexico, I was moving around every like week or 2, and that made it really hard to have a good routine. I was always having to find a new gym, new supermarket, literally like locate everything that you would need to function as a human week by week, and that is really tough when you're trying to work a job and travel and like enjoy experience where you're at. So it's better to stay in one place for a longer term, which I feel like most digital nomads end up realizing. But in the beginning, when I was moving around a lot, I did not have a routine. I was going to the gym like twice, maybe 3 times a week, barely running. So not having a routine kind of sucks because I'm a very routine person. So I've realized that I need to travel slower and make sure I can sustain a routine for a bit. Number 6 is, since you're mostly living out of Airbnbs, if you book a shitty Airbnb for a month, if it's not what the pictures say, or if it's loud as fuck and you didn't know that prior to getting there, you're screwed for a month. And I have not had it happen for a month, but the place I booked in Mexico, it had no windows, basically just slats to the outside world, so I could hear everything that was going on outside, and I just simply could not sleep at night. That was terrible. Luckily, Airbnb came through and I got a refund and moved out of there after 3 days, but yeah, I would not have been able to function for the whole week there. So that's a bit dodgy sometimes. Number 7, it's kind of hard to make deep connections with people sometimes if you're always moving or they're always moving. That's why, again, I decided to stay in Brazil and Colombia for 3 months in one location, because it just makes it a lot easier to meet people and actually hang out with them and get to know them. But when I was in Mexico and bouncing around every week, I just couldn't really make long-term friends. Like, we'd make friends for 3 nights at the hostel, and then after that you leave, follow them on Instagram, and never see them again, which is kind of cool to meet a lot of people, but gets exhausting and you want deeper connections after a bit. And the last con for me is not having a car. I just like having the freedom to go wherever I want, whenever I want. Even though Ubers were like $3-4, super cheap, super easy, super reliable, I still wanted a car just so I could drive myself around and have that freedom. So this is kind of a minor one, but still annoying nonetheless when I can't just hop in my own car and go somewhere. None of these are deal breakers for me. I love this lifestyle. I'm gonna keep doing it for a bit, but it is something to consider if you're thinking about this lifestyle. And now for the good parts. So I can travel basically anywhere I want. Besides right now, Asia, with my current job, I would have to work in the middle of the night, and I am not doing that. But anywhere that lets me work within US time zones, I'm cool with. So even Europe I could do, because I can just work like 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., not a problem. If I want to go to a city, I can. If I want to go to a beach, I can. And that's exactly what I did. When I was in Colombia, I was in the city for 3 months, kind of got tired of being in a city, wanted to be in a beach. So I fucked off on a beach in Brazil for 2 months. And if I didn't have this job, I simply would not be able to do that. So that is a huge bonus for me. Number 2, this slower way of travel as opposed to just vacations really lets you experience a culture, a country, a language. You just get more immersed in the local area as opposed to just taking a week-long vacation in a resort where you're not really gonna experience much besides that little bubble that you're in. Number 3, you get to meet people from all around the world. Not only the country that you're in, the local people, but also other travelers and digital nomads from all over. Before traveling, I really hadn't met too many people from really many other parts of the world. Like, obviously the US is pretty diverse, but like I wasn't meeting many Australians, many UK people, Italians. Literally, I've met people from damn near every corner of the world in the 8 months that I've been traveling. And it's a very cool experience just to see how different people live, how they go about their life, how they act. And you can learn a lot from different people and different cultures. That's the beauty of it. Which leads me to my next point of you gotta learn how the world works. Like, once you see how other people operate in different countries and you hear stories about their political systems, their financial systems, just how most people live their day-to-day life, you kind of reflect back on how you live life back home. You're like, oh shit, maybe this way of living is a bit better. Maybe I enjoy doing this more. And it kind of just expands your worldview to stuff that you didn't even know existed before. So it's cool to meet people from everywhere and get a bigger picture of the world. Future Brian here. I'm currently editing the video, but I completely forgot to mention that one of the biggest pros is the food. So I'm a pretty healthy person. I like to eat healthy food, and the quality of the ingredients simply just is not the same in most foreign countries, at least the 3 I've been to. And I know Europe is really good with this too. Just any ordinary food that you would buy. Besides, they still have their processed crap too, especially Mexico. Mexico has a lot of crazy food products like we do. But just the quality of the normal ingredients that you get at a restaurant or just in normal food that you would buy is so much better. Like, I genuinely feel better when I was eating their food. Like, especially in Colombia and Brazil, fruit is abundant. It's cheaper, it's better. In Brazil, I was eating a mango every single day. It was phenomenal. So yeah, that is another very big pro for me. It's just that you can get healthier food. It's cheaper too, obviously. That's a big pro. But just eating better quality ingredients, you feel so much better and it tastes better. So one specific pro to the 20s is the fact that I'm in my 20s and single, and I will never be this age and have this little responsibility and this possibility ever again. So now is quite literally the perfect time. And I'm sure I'm still gonna wanna travel around a bit when I'm older, but it is not gonna be anything like what I can do now. So now is quite literally the perfect time to do this, and I am very grateful that I have this opportunity. And number 7 is that it teaches you new skills. You learn how to be resourceful, you learn how to be more creative, you get to learn how to plan a whole trip, you get to learn how to function on a tight budget. You get to learn new cooking skills, how to handle transportation in a foreign country, how to speak a new language, how to dance salsa in my case. There's so much shit that you can do when you're in a different country and you see the way they live and what other opportunities you have. You just become a little bit more crafty and you figure out different ways of doing things, and it's cool. You get more life skills this way. Number 8 is you get to experience different dating cultures if you're single, which is very nice because in the US it's pretty much the same. I know that California can be a bit different, but up and down the East Coast it's been pretty much the same, and Latin America is very different. You get more open and warm cultures, more loving. They like to do more stuff for you. And it's just nice to experience different cultures. And I'm sure in other countries like Europe and Asia, it's different as well. So just getting different experience there is very nice. You get to figure out what you like, what you don't like. Number 9 is if you genuinely want to learn a new language, going to a country where it's spoken makes it a hell of a lot easier and a more enjoyable experience. You get more immersed in it. So for me, learning Spanish in Mexico and Colombia, it was a different experience than just sitting in a classroom or doing Duolingo at home here. Not going to learn quite the same as speaking it with local people who actually speak the language. And number 10 is you're basically a blank slate wherever you go. So you can kind of figure out whoever you want to be, try different, not personalities, but different way of doing things in different countries. So in Colombia, not gonna lie, I partied a bit too much. So when I went to Brazil, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just chill here, lock in, be on my peaceful beach, not worry too much about partying. Might have a couple times, but for the most part, I was kind of living a much more chill lifestyle than I did when I was in Colombia. And that's just a nice experience, nice breath of fresh air, being able to just act a completely different way in a new country and not have people's prior expectations put on you. And you can kind of just experiment with who you want to be, which is very freeing and very fun. And there's 2 more points that I want to make, but they're both pros and cons, so I stuck them in their own category. So the first one is you get more attention depending on the country. So if you're a tall gringo with blue eyes, you're going to get more attention, which can both be good and bad. A lot of the times it was just curious looks, like who is this strange foreigner, which is fair. Sometimes it was the attention that you do want, and sometimes it is the attention that you don't really want from not the best looking people. I never really felt unsafe, but there are definitely times where I'm like, this motherfucker's looking at me weird. He probably doesn't like me. So that can both be a pro and a con depending on how you look at it. And lastly, most of the people that I met in my 8 months of travel were older than me. Besides staying in hostels in Mexico, where that's mostly younger backpackers, when I was on my true digital nomad lifestyle in Colombia and the end of Mexico and in Brazil, when I was staying in one place for a longer time with remote workers, most of those people are older, probably like 30 plus, which is again a pro and a con. Pro because you're meeting older people who have more knowledge, you can learn from them, they have more experience than you, and it's cool to hang out with other people who have that knowledge and experience and just, like I said, learn from them and connect with people that you normally wouldn't connect with when you're back home. But it becomes a con when you're not on the same wavelength as them because they're a bit older, probably a bit more mature. Sometimes I wanted to be degenerate and they were a bit more, like I said, mature. They wanted to just chill, which is fine. But if we're not on the same wavelength, it makes it harder to, be as close of friends. So that's why it's a bit of a pro and a con. So the pros definitely outweigh the cons here. And I know it's like a 8-to-10 ratio of cons to pros, but none of the cons were deal breakers, like I said. Most of them I was able to find ways around or deal with. And I don't think this lifestyle is for everyone, to be honest. It kind of takes a certain type of person to be able to handle yourself in a foreign country for months on end. But I think if you're curious about it, you should go for it. Try to get a remote job, try to live it for a little bit. This is definitely not something I'll want to do forever. I can see myself wanting to get an apartment within a few years and then just travel out here and there. But while I have this experience to just go wherever I want, whenever I want, I'm very grateful for that. And if you like this type of video where I'm talking about traveling, my experiences, digital nomad, remote work, whatever, all the buzzwords, Let me know if you enjoy it, and I'll make some more content on it. Peace.